Hello, welcome to Deep Images. We're back yet again, and for the first time in some weeks, we've got some of our OG crew reassembled here, and for a great occasion because, first of all, today's the 1 year anniversary of the first airing of an episode of this show on July 19, 2023, a day that will live forever in the memory of all cinephiles and podcast junkies, I'm sure. And I want to say that I want to thank, there's tons of people to thank for the last year material. But the main people I want to thank first are the ones who've actually been with me since that show. So some of them aren't here, but Keith Howell, Bill Mulligan, our producers, Dwayne Cochran and Tim Tolbert. And this young man at the bottom here, Mr. Justin Cotton, is also an original cast member. So thank you for sticking around, Justin. It's wonderful.
No problem.
And of course, Chuck, CF Roberts here has been a key panelist for some months. And I really appreciate that. All right. And Chuck, you have anything you wanted to tell the people real quick before I go on?
Like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, yada, yada, yada.
Rock on.
Shows. Check it out. Yeah.
Hell yeah. So
tell your friends, tell your enemies.
Hell yeah. I mean, no publicity is bad publicity, right? I mean, it's better no publicity than bad. You know what I mean? So
I know.
I don't know if the audience does or like, who's this freak? So
as long as I spell your name right.
Exactly. Yeah. And so what we're also continuing today is Black cinema. So we did two mammoth sessions. I know we've cut them into, I think, 9 wonderful episodes. I have a playlist on YouTube, but we're only like halfway there. We've got a lot more material to cover. So we're going to do 2 more sessions, one of which is going to be tonight. So we've kind of been keeping our ammunition dry, to quote an infamous politician, and in order to bring you what we were going to cover in previous sessions, but we ran out of time for. That's me and Chuck. Justin is going to, however, give us a movie that we have not even really mentioned much because we don't cover a tremendous amount of Marvel and superhero movie stuff. Because it's a very polarizing thing, even though most of us on the show grew up on comic books or still are into comic books. But I have broken that or bent that a bit recently. We did do an X-Men 97 symposium for, which ended up in 3 episodes. Tim, Keith, and I. Check that out. That's very illuminating. So to put a cherry on top, Justin has agreed to cover Black Panther by Marvel Studios by Ryan Coogler. Can you talk about this with us?
I sure can. So I'll start by saying I'm not really although I'm a comic book fan, I'm not really a huge Marvel cinema fan, and I've only seen a few of that genre.
That's quite all right.
Including this one, of course, but ironically saw it not at the cinema, where it would have been better, I suppose, but on a delayed Jetstar flight from Hawaii back to Melbourne. And my neighbor, rednecky sort of guy next to me, happened to be watching that film, and I thought, oh, this looks good. His wife was also watching it, so I thought I'll watch the film. And I was impressed with it. But just some intro about the film. It's a 2018 film, Black Panther, as you say, directed by Ryan Coogler, and it was the first Marvel film to have primarily an all-black cast. It's based on the Marvel character of T'Challa from Wakanda as Black Panther.
Created by Jack Kirby.
Created by Jack Kirby, and one of the original writers was a fellow by the name of Don McGregor.
Yes.
And possibly the first black superhero. We're talking sort of early 70s, I suppose, early to mid 70s, along with my personal favorite, Luke Cage / Power Man, also originating from the sort of early to mid 70s, about 1973.
Yeah.
So Black Panther's a very interesting superhero character, breaks the mold. It's actually a film that was a huge blockbuster success. It made just over 700 million at the US box office alone, but around 1.35 billion at the global box office, which is highly impressive.
No one saw it's still the highest grossing single superhero movie, though I think maybe that last Spider-Man may be tied with it now. But
Yeah.
but at that time it was unheard of. Even Batman wasn't hitting that number, and no Marvel characters, solo characters were. So go ahead. Sorry.
I think at the time I read also that it was about the ninth highest grossing film, I think, internationally, globally, of all time at the time. Some other films may have surpassed it since then. It was the first Marvel film to be nominated for the Best Picture award at the Oscars, although it subsequently, of course, didn't win that at the 2019 Oscars. But it did win 3 Oscars for technical, I think, things like set designs, sound editing, costume, of course, as well, for the Wakanda. It created a world, Wakanda, which is a mysterious kingdom in Africa, obviously. The main characters, including T'Challa, played by Chadwick Boseman, the late great Chadwick Boseman, adopted an authentic sounding African accent for the film. And it's a mysterious kingdom that was little known about to the outside world. It was isolated, pretended to be sort of third world, but in fact it was technologically advanced due to this vibranium element that came from a meteorite. And there was a heart-shaped herb which was, I suppose, infused with this vibranium, and anyone who partakes of the heart-shaped herb or ingests it can adopt the Black Panther superhero characters, or superpowers, if you like.
That was actually that heart-shaped herb angle was created by Roy Thomas when he wrote Avengers. I know Roy, by the way. I haven't seen him in a few years. He lives close to me. But yeah, he finally did the origin of like, why does Black Panther have these like powers and seeming power, and he has him go through that ritual. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, in terms of hyper agility, flying, well, not flying, but
leaping,
leaping vast distances, and superhuman strength.
Right.
Which you see a little bit at the outset of the film, sort of an intro, a bit James Bondish in terms of the unrelated storyline, but you see the hero in character with their powers at the start of the film. It's a fictional African setting of Wakanda, which has been created. Just going through some of the main cast, is obviously Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, who sadly passed away in 2020. Angela Bassett plays his mother, Ramonda, the Queen of Wakanda. Letitia Wright as Suri, a 16-year-old younger sister of T'Challa. Michael B. Jordan did a star turn, I thought, as a villainous character who supposedly might come good, a bit of a revelation at the end, but as he's about to, very King Lear, as he's about to pass away at the end of the film. So he plays Eric Killmonger Stevens, who is effectively, I think, a cousin of T'Challa.
Yeah, and first cousin.
Has a vengeance motivation, which I'll discuss. Martin Freeman as Everett Ross, the CIA agent, was a secondary character, but
AKA the token white guy, or
the token white guy,
or as Shuri calls him in the second movie, my favorite colonizer.
Yeah, so he was one of 2 token white guys in the first film. The other one being also Lord of the Rings type alumni, which is Andy Serkis, who plays Ulysses Clow, sort of a black market arms dealer. And his motivation, Ulysses Clow, is quite prominent at the first half of the film. Is he's trying to get weapons from Wakanda, which have superpowered weapons due to vibranium, to assist his arms dealing enterprise. And near the start of the film, they steal a Wakandan artifact from a British museum with the help of Eric Stevens. Yeah, it's a good scene at the start of the film. And then there's Wakanda and T'Challa become involved, and there's a scene in South Korea where a fight scene, effectively, where Ulysses is taken down by T'Challa. But this subplot then devolves into Eric Killmonger Stevens returning to Africa, or going to away from his home in the United States to go to Wakanda and assert some right to the throne, because his the original king's brother, so the original king being the father of T'Challa,
T'Chaka.
T'Chaka. So T'Chaka fell out with his brother. The brother was killed. There's this guilt backstory in terms of T'Chaka, who's also passed on. Once he passes on, of course, T'Challa then assumes the mantle of the king of Wakanda and has the heart-shaped herb. But there is a scene where after Eric Killmonger Stevens has asserted, he's also got a vengeance motive, but asserts his right to the throne. T'Challa effectively is, very courageously, or decides to we resolve this through a duel, and there's a very good scene in front of a sort of a fountain, a waterfall type area where there's a battle. First of all, T'Challa defeats one other challenger, but then has to take on Eric Killmonger Stevens, who somehow manages to win that duel. I think it was because, from memory, T'Challa decided not to use the vibranium herb.
That's what they do during the duels. Yeah, with the royalty. Yeah, because he did it with M'Baku early in the movie, but he still beat him anyway. But
that's right.
The Killmonger was too much.
Yeah, so T'Challa did not have the benefit of the vibranium herb, which gives the superpower, the Black Panther superpowers. So after a fairly long duel, eventually Killmonger comes out on top, lifts up T'Challa and throws him off a waterfall.
And that's an iconic shot from Jungle Action #7, which my mother bought for me when I was a kid. It was new on the stand. I can't remember if I could even read then, but I already had comics. And that picture of him, one of the ending of the issue, the first appearance of Killmonger, he picks him up and he throws him over the waterfall. And I told Don, because I know Don McGregor on Facebook, and I'm trying to get him to appear on the show to do an interview, because he's also a film critic and expert. But I told Don, I said, "Well, what do you think about that waterfall?" He's like, "Oh my God, it was incredible," But come to life, But go ahead, sorry.
And excellent, because that was lifted, as you say, straight from the comic. That is definitely part of the comics as written by Don McGregor. And you suspect, if you're not familiar with the comics, the movie, a viewer suspects that T'Challa is in fact dead. But of course, it turns out, spoiler alert, that he isn't, and is subsequently found somewhere and with another tribe, and is revived with the help of Suri and others with the vibranium. And there's in a subsequent battle towards the end, where also obviously in Africa, where the Wakandans, with the help of another tribe, battle effectively another tribe. Then there's obviously the final duel between the two Black Panther characters. So we've got T'Challa, who's risen from the dead, and also has the same suit, the Black Panther suit, on as Eric Killmonger. And the duel lasts for a good 10 minutes in the film, and eventually, of course, T'Challa prevails.
But did you mention that since Eric wins, he technically gets the throne, and then he actually takes the heart-shaped herb.
That's right. So,
but then he says this classic line, which out of context in the trailers underlined the political kind of idea of the movie. He's like, burn it all, So he's like, burn it. No one else can be a Black Panther after me,
Yeah. So of course there's the scene, the usurper scene, where of course 2/3 of the way through the film, after T'Challa's been thrown off the waterfall, presumed to be dead, the Eric Killmonger character then takes the throne of Wakanda, which was his main objective. He's also trying to avenge, in his mind, the death of his father at the hands of T'Challa's father. There's a couple of dream sequences too, where just before T'Challa comes back from the dead, with the use of the help of the vibranium, he's talking to his father in this sort of dreamlike state in this field, and it's revealed why T'Chaka had this guilt for the death of his brother.
Mm-hmm.
But that's prior to the final the final battle scene towards the end, which takes up I guess the last 30 minutes of the film.
It
The
feels
battle
like it
between the
anyway.
two, yeah, the battle between the two Black Panthers obviously results in, I think it was Killmonger was stabbed somehow towards the
Yeah.
end of that duel, and he effectively, a bit like I suppose Boromir in Lord of the Rings in the end of the first film, he effectively says, he kind of regrets his previous actions, but prefers to die a free man rather than to go into custody for his wrongdoing, and passes away as the two of them watch the Wakanda sunset. So that's basically a brief, with your help, Henry, a bit of a brief
Oh,
summary of the plot.
thanks.
But yeah, it's certainly a good cast. The special effects are amazing, the costumes, and obviously the set design of the Wakanda uh, world that they've created for the film. There is a sequel, Wakanda Forever, which I have to say I haven't seen, but by all accounts has amazing special effects. It is without T'Challa, sadly, because of the death of Chadwick Boseman. But there is, I think, I read the large part of the film devoted to effectively a funeral or memorials
The early part of the film, yeah, it has like,
to
and they does
T'Challa.
like an African ritual. I mean, as incredibly well made as Black Panther is, Wakanda Forever
Mm.
is kind of like next level in many ways. I mean, it's even more cinematic, and it's even more like into the culture, and it's even more into like the revolutionary politics, anti-colonialism, anti-imperialism. So it's about as subversive as a Hollywood movie could get these days and get away with it, you know. I loved it, and plus it had Submariner, you know, Marvel's oldest superhero
Well, I
character.
was going to say there was sort of an Aquaman type character of Latino descent, I think, was in the film.
Yeah,
I do
Namor.
say, it was not a plus for me that there was no. I mean, obviously Chadwick Boseman sadly passed away, and I thought he was phenomenal as the original Black Panther. So the sequel did not have the same attraction for me, I have to say. But having said that, as you say, I've heard good things from you about it, and also what I've read.
It's worth seeing
Um,
for sure. I
it's got
saw
an
it in the
amazing,
theater.
it's got an amazing Rotten Tomatoes score and all the rest of it. And also, it was another blockbuster success, maybe not to the same level as the original Black Panther, but nevertheless was one of the highest grossing films in the US in particular.
Yeah,
Yeah, about 3 years.
critically, it's one of the Marvel's most critically acclaimed movies ever. I mean,
Mm.
so is the first one, but I think where the sequel. So what you're left with is you have a trifecta of female characters. You know, Okoye, the warrior, played by Daniela Guran. I can't say her name. Who's in
Yeah.
you know, the zombie killing movie, TV show, and as Michonne, but this is Sans Wig. She plays Okoye, and then there's Nakia, who in the comics was a minor member of the Dora Milaje, which is the you know, the coterie of women warriors that Okoye commands. But in the movie, they played her up to be his love interest because his love interests in the comics have mainly been Monica Lynn, an American black singer, and then later Storm of the X-Men. So they couldn't really do Storm, and I guess they wanted to keep it Afrocentric and not have him get into a whole nother layer of social commentary by having him, you know, have the woman be the fish out of water. That's what Don McGregor worked on. Um, but
Mm.
and then the third, so that Nakia, she's played by the just rapturously beautiful Lupita Nyong'o, uh, and
He was also in the first film too.
she was, well, all these three characters that I'm going to mention in the first film. Yeah, so Koya was in
Yeah.
it, and of course, Nakia. And it's funny, when I saw the first movie twice in the theater, and the first time I saw it, you know, I was really excited. I talk to myself during movies sometimes during parts that, you know, because I've given up on trying to get any reaction out of other moviegoers. I mean, I don't know if it's a Charlotte thing, but where I live, like, moviegoers are like this. I mean, they don't react. They don't have any passion, where I'd rather just watch it at home with some friends. I know we're going to like it.
Yeah.
So these zombies were kind of, now it did have some good reactions, but so some of my responses though were a little too spontaneous, maybe for a couple of people. I mean, in a humorous way, because when Lupita Nyong'o is introduced, I said, damn, she is fine. And this black dude near me is like, yeah, she is. I was like, hell yeah, man. But the other one character is Shuri, Letitia Wright, who's a young British actress and black and British actress, a great combination, I think. But as far as sexiness, but Shuri is his sister, and Shuri is like a super genius. I mean, it's implied through the Avengers movies that she's at least as, if not smarter than Tony Stark, that she's, the uber prodigy. And since she grew up around this advanced technology, she mastered it at a young age. So she can resolve just about any problem. She could not save the Vision in Avengers Infinity War, which was a bummer. But she came close. But, it's kind of hard to do your work when like this giant purple mad titan is like beating down the door to kill everybody. But she did her best. So in Wakanda Forever, after the Avengers climax Endgame, she also tries to save T'Challa's life, and she's not able to. And that, of course, stings her because she is this genius. They don't really say exactly what his illness was. They keep it a little vague. But if it's something that T'Challa couldn't recover from and she couldn't cure, it must be something really deadly. And she kind of loses her edge as far as her confidence in her intellect, and like she's not like the sassy character in the first movie that we all love, Shuri, and but it's because she's in grieving, she's in mourning throughout the whole movie, and also feels this weight of responsibility, as does his mother, Raymonda. And Rhonda is a very strong character. Raymonda was created by Don McGregor because neither Jack Kirby nor Roy Thomas ever mentioned what happened to T'Challa's mother in all those comics. So and neither did Don McGregor in the 70s. So in the 80s, he was like, okay, here's the mother, here's why she's estranged. And he brought her in. And, just so really these 4 women characters, much to the chagrin of the racist, sexist fan bros out there, which are legion, carry the movie. It's about these 4 strong black women. So, I mean, in that sense, it takes the whole statement of the first movie, which was revolutionary and crossover culturally and huge impact, and it takes it even to another level, and that's why I liked about it on an emotional, like dramatic level. But as far as like what brings the conflict and the action is you do have a male character who is an anti-hero, Prince Namor, and this was Marvel's oldest superhero character, the Submariner, and they repurposed him kind of like in Shang-Chi. They repurposed some of Shang-Chi's origin and came up with this kind of mystical realm called Ta Lo, which is kind of like an homage to a bunch of the Chinese wuxia films, and weaving in like the mythology of Fu Manchu and the Mandarin from the comics. And of course the great Tony Leung played the evil father. But in this movie they kind of do a similar thing. They repurpose Atlantis into Talokan. So it's like it is underwater. It was a sunken city, but it was a sunken indigenous people city in ancient times, kind of like the Aztecs or the Mayans. And so it has a lot of early, I'm not going to say Hispanic, we could call it Hispanic or Spanish culture, but of course Spanish culture, they're the colonialists who raped and plundered these people. So I can't give them credit for that. It's the indigenous people's culture. And so, but it's associated with Mexican culture. Well, Mexicans are descended, unlike Spanish in Europe, Mexicans are descended from Spanish colonials who raped indigenous women. And here you have Hispanics. And that's why they all have Spanish names, but they're not of the Caucasian race. But my point being is that's the flavor they added to make the Atlanteans more exotic, more relevant, And I think they did a good job because they mainly retained Namor's personality. Am I boring everybody? I'm just going off camera.
Yeah. I'm just writing down some notes.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Audience, listen, please. And so Namor, has like some extra jewelry.
Sorry, cat wrangling.
Oh, I understand that. And but he's still, he's still a muscular, half-naked guy with pointed ears, green trunks, and wings on his feet, and he's still the king, the prince. And his kingdom also has underwater also turns out to have the other supply of vibranium in the world that Wakanda didn't even know about. So the government is trying to plunder it. So the second movie, there's all this kind of like more, hey Briggy,
Hi,
hello,
fancy meeting you here.
come on in.
Yeah.
I'm wrapping up an impromptu review of Wakanda Forever. I'm piggybacking off of Justin's incredible Black Panther discourse. So just to keep the audience, in the loop, because they're watching and they're like, but what about Wakanda Forever? So, I was just saying that in the Wakanda Forever, it becomes even more of the the government's evil, the CIA's evil, colonialists and imperialists are evil, and who am I to argue with the facts, and that basically they're trying to plunder. They've not only trying to plunder Wakanda for vibranium, now they're trying to plunder Talokan underwater, and so Namor is not like T'Challa. He's like T'Challa in that he's a noble, heroic dude, but he's more like Killmonger in that he's like, well, if the surface dwellers want to take my vibranium, bring it, I'll fuck them up, and unfortunately he takes his wrath out on Wakanda also, and kills Queen Ramonda, and he's not irredeemable for that. Maybe to some viewers he is. So him and Shuri have to have a fight, and she finally, of course, takes the heart-shaped herb and becomes the new Black Panther. And she gives him a pretty good fight, and she kind of defeats him, and makes him kind of admit he's wrong, basically. Oh, and so it's the reverse of the Killmonger scene at the end of the first movie, and so Namor is a little wiser at the end and tells his advisors, his cousin Namorita and his General Atuma, both of whom are also comic book characters and do have blue skin underwater, like in the comics. And especially happy to see Namorita. I always pronounced her name Namorita until I saw that movie, but Namorita sounds really cool. So, as in Little Namor. So Little Namor tells Big Namor, hey, well, what are we going to do about these damn, surface dwellers? And he's basically like, we need to temper this, and see if we can try to make allies with the Wakandans, despite the fact I killed their queen. But all this is very true to the characters. Namor has always been a kind of, one day he's a hero, one day he's a villain, one day he's an anti-hero. But he has that whole like weight of the kingdom. So it's a shame we didn't get to see, as we did in the comics, T'Challa and Namor face off with their opposing philosophies, but I do think that everything was well represented within these two movies. I don't know how they're gonna. I don't really know how they're going to satisfactorily go forward, but it's ostensibly Shuri's the Black Panther, so I guess if they do, when they do Avengers 5, hopefully she'll be in the Avengers. So I'm a big.
Can I beg to differ on that? I really do think that by the time they get around to doing another Black Panther film, which I don't know if they will, but maybe they will eventually, they really do need to recast it because
I agree.
Because the thing is, I grew up on reading Black Panther comics, and I understand what happened, sadly, and I was a big fan of Chadwick Boseman passing away, but I also read somewhere that he was unhappy personally that they did not recast T'Challa. And okay, I think it's a valid argument that maybe.
No, wait a minute. How'd they know that? Did they have a seance or? No, I'm kidding.
No, he was still around because they knew that the studio knew that he had cancer. And
no, the studio did not know he had cancer until the very, very end. I mean, he might have told them that the last week he was alive, but it's like Freddie Mercury. Freddie Mercury told the world, yes, I'm gay, and the next day he died of AIDS, and nobody knew he had AIDS, though people suspected it.
Well, the fact that you didn't have to tell the world he was gay, I think you could tell Freddie Mercury was gay. I mean, clearly gay.
Right, but back then it was like, nobody admitted it. I grew up when like Elton John and Boy George, like, of course we're not gay. They would like angrily get defensive on MTV about, of course we're not gay. Freddie Mercury never I got to say, Freddie Mercury did not act a fool like that. He just kept it mum. He did kind of pretend Mary, his best friend, was his lover, and he did love her, but I don't think it was a sexual thing. But I agree with you about the recasting, because I think once again you could have a character who, as per comics, soap operas, etc., somehow evades death and comes back to reclaim his. I think that actually be a good story. They just have to recast it very carefully. And yeah, I'm sure Chadwick. Yeah. That's interesting that he did tell them that before he died, though. I do believe that is true.
Well, I'm just going by what I read on Cinema Blend of all places, but
well, that's a fan bro site, but
it was supposedly said by Chadwick's brother. That was Chadwick's view that it should be recast, but they decided not to do that. But
okay,
I think by the time they do get around to making another Black Panther film, they may find a way to get around that and to do it. And I believe they should anyway. But
well, if Kevin Feige, he's like he's very once he draws a line in the sand and says, I want to keep the integrity and the realism of this, which the comic book writers stopped trying to do like 20 years ago. So I don't mess with those, but I grew up on them, but I don't support Marvel Comics as a current entity. I'm actually a detractor, but whenever I get a chance. But the movies are a little different since they're based largely on my childhood memories. But the thing with Kevin Feige, he'll make these vows, like he's like, we absolutely will not recast T'Challa, but then he also said we absolutely, Wolverine will never come back. Jackman is done, and so now in what's the day? 19 in 6 days, I'm going to see the premiere of Deadpool and Wolverine. So. And then there's also rumors that Robert Downey Jr. now wants to come back, at least as an alternate universe Tony Stark. So after those two things, they probably will recast Black Panther, I think, because Feige, like Marvel comic writers, really isn't a person of his word and doesn't believe in the finality of his stories, which is one thing I don't like about that stuff. I hope the movies will not go full sail on this. The multiverse has given them an out. They could be like, well, Chris Evans can play an alternative Captain America, or it's like, or Scarlett Johansson can play Black Widow from another universe. Yes, that's true, and that's comic accurate, but I don't really like it when they do it in the comic. I mean, it's different with actors because you get somebody identified with them. Go ahead.
I read somewhere where Michael B. Jordan was possibly going to be cast as Hercules, which I think is a great idea.
And Hercules has been cast.
And also there's talk of a Black Superman, which I think maybe isn't even multiverse. I think there might be actually a precedent for that in some of the comics.
Oh, no, there is. Yeah, he's a character.
Again, I think that's a good idea as well, although a lot of the fanboys are against it, but I think it's a good idea.
Well, I think if you delineate that he is from an alternate universe, then you have the best of both worlds. And the
now,
character...
who would be playing that, though? Who's playing these characters?
I don't know that Black Superman's been cast. The guy who played Hercules has been cast because he appeared at the end of Thor: Love and Thunder. I'm not familiar with the actor. I don't remember. Do you know? You said his name, Justin?
I thought it was going to be Michael B. Jordan.
Oh no! Hercules is going to be a white guy. Well, pretending to be a Greek guy. Well, I mean, you know what I mean. I don't know if he's really a Greek actor, but I mean, he's playing a Greek god. But Russell Crowe. I mean, I didn't hate Love and Thunder like a lot of people did. I thought it was pretty fun, but Russell Crowe was one of the weak points of the movie. He was not believable as Zeus. He was buffoonish and ridiculous. He didn't even have red hair and a red beard. I mean, dude. And it's funny because Taika Waititi is so comic accurate in Ragnarok. I mean, down to every detail. He's got the Jack Kirby designs, but he was a little sloppy with Love and Thunder, though I do love the fact Love and Thunder shows like all the gods, and they show like all the gods from all these pantheons, and that every kind of person has a patron god. Some of them are ridiculous. I just thought Crow as Zeus kind of sucked, but at the end, he tells Hercules, his son, okay, you're going to avenge my honor with Thor. So they're setting up the Thor versus Hercules rivalry they had in the comics. But I was not familiar with the actor, but he is in fact a white guy. But I don't know. I don't think they've cast Black Superman.
Yeah,
But I think they'll do it
Just
eventually.
if I could just say just two more things in closing.
Of course.
I found something really good on YouTube because I'm such a Chadwick Boseman
what
fan.
character like that
A
role of
couple of-
Thor? You need
A couple of years ago,
Very cool.
and I. Sorry, what was that, Frankie?
Oh, go ahead. I thought we had some interference. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So I found this YouTube clip of a Jimmy Fallon show where a lot of Black Panther fans came in, and there was a poster of Chadwick Boseman, and they said, if Chadwick Boseman was here as Black Panther, what would you say to him? So each of them goes in, and each of these movie fans goes in and says something, and then Chadwick Boseman appears from behind a partition. He's actually listening, and he's actually there, and talks to each of the fans. So it's pretty cool. It's on YouTube. It's from the Jimmy Fallon show. Yeah.
Now, are you saying that an actor plays Chadwick Boseman coming
No.
back from the dead?
No, it's really
No,
him.
he was actually there.
This actually happened way back. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's only, but this is probably 3 years old, and
okay.
and the first time, well, even more actually, because the first time I saw it, obviously Chadwick Boseman hadn't even passed away, and no one knew he was sick, you know. So although he had lost a lot of weight compared with how he'd bulked up in this,
he was still muscular but very wiry. Yeah,
he was looking sort of wiry, and yeah, that's right. And I had a quick look at their Rotten Tomato scores. Both films are really scored very highly in terms of the critics. I think Wakanda Forever was in the 80s, and the original Black Panther was about 94% or something like that. So they've been hits with critics on Rotten Tomatoes. Serious hits with the critics. So it would be good to see another Wakanda rendition at some future time, but it may be a way off.
They're supposed to be doing an animated series that takes place in Wakanda throughout the ages, like almost an anthology thing. So you'll see like the older Black Panthers, the previous generations, and supposedly it's going to cross over, and he's going to meet some of the legacy Iron Fists that existed prior. You know, we'll see. I don't know. It doesn't sound like they really are doing much work on it, but you never know with these things. Sometimes you think it's going to happen tomorrow, and then it never happens. And sometimes, they put it aside, and then all of a sudden it pops out. So I don't know. A lot of it has to do with Bob Iger of Disney being kind of a prick. He's just like totally nervous about. He's like, oh no, we only made hundreds of billions of dollars. We might go broke. He's. What a fucking capitalist pig that guy is. Sorry, controversial opinion of the night, maybe. Though I bet everybody who works for Marvel probably agrees. But anyway, I can't say it.
But just on a general level, do you think though that they might be in a little bit of trouble, Marvel films, on the back of the last few films?
I don't think they're in trouble the way they're not in trouble the way, say, we get in trouble. Like I was about to be homeless a month or two ago. That's what I mean. They're used to being like uber wealthy. So to them being in trouble is just, we didn't make $1 billion on the Marvels. So, but see, that part of that problem is they spend so much money on these movies needlessly, so that's the problem when you spend $250 million on the Marvels, which didn't really warrant it. It looked good, but it looked good special effects, but it wasn't one of their stronger movies as far as cinematography. But then you spend $150 million more on advertising worldwide, and so you've got to make $1 billion to be considered profitable with them. So Marvel's was a flop by that metric. And
but also the Aquaman film as well, although I think that's DC, isn't it? But
it's DC.
Didn't do as well as expected.
Which was, that was supposed to do well because it was going to be the last DC extended universe film, and of course, almost every other person in the world has a sexual fetish for Jason Momoa, which I'll never figure out personally. I get it in a way, but in a way I don't. But
I think more so when he was on Baywatch might be a bit better, but sorry.
I think you're just jealous. You sound jealous.
I am jealous. I'm really mad about it.
bitter. You should like go
I'm
to
very
therapy
bitter.
for
Well, no, it's just
that.
I don't like it when female actresses I'm told are beautiful. I don't think are beautiful, and everybody just sighs over constantly. And so it's not a jealousy from a male point of view. I mean, I feel the
Oh,
same
I'm sure you're not jealous. I mean, you're pretty
about
hot.
anyone overrated in the looks glamour department that I feel doesn't warrant it. I'm just going to speak out about it because I'm just that kind of person. But
I guess.
but if they do things I like, I'm gonna give them their props. I mean, Momoa
I
was
mean, look, we get so little to look at. I mean, understand the entire world is constructed through the male gaze. Can we not have a little eye candy,
oh
or
no,
just,
no, of course, of course.
I
okay?
totally
Thank
agree
you.
with Briggy. I agree with
Okay,
Briggy.
thank you. Yes,
No, I mean,
stay with me.
I do think Jason Momoa is a good looking guy. I mean, no doubt. I mean, obviously, he's got long hair and a beard, and I like that.
He's
Uh,
so Fabio. He's so Fabio.
yeah, I mean, his body build is Fabio and with the long hair, but he's also, kind of a person of color. I don't know if he's Hawaiian origin or not, whatever.
I think he's Tongan. Tonga.
What is it?
He's Tongan, I think. I don't
Okay.
think he's Hawaiian, but I'm just saying.
I
That's
thought
just
he was Hawaiian, maybe, but Hawaiian. He's
he has
he's
okay.
Polynesian anyway.
Polynesian.
The
Let's say that.
Polynesian race, quote
Mhm,
unquote, which is now considered
mhm.
kind of a sub like race or whatever.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Pulled
cool.
together a money benefit for Starcrawler. I was kind of down with that.
Yeah, no, he's a cool. I mean, I'm not saying he's not a cool guy. I mean, I do think he's. I get tired of hearing about him, but that's just a hype. It has nothing to do with like. I'll tell you, an
It's
actress that a
publicity.
lot of people, actress that a lot of people love dearly, and she's in every other movie, and she's supposed to be beautiful and brilliant. And I personally don't agree. Is Nicole Kidman? I don't feel anything for her, and she's done a couple of parts she's been good in, but that was because of the director.
The others was
Whenever she's in interviews or does ads, she comes across as a smarmy, pretentious, rich person.
yeah,
I just
maybe.
don't, it's not my thing, but I have a close friend of the show. I won't name him just in case this is a controversial view. Who's like, I like Nicole. What are you talking about? I can't agree with you on that. I'm like, all right, that's cool. That's cool. But that's just an example. There's many female examples of this. But so yeah, it's about time that there were some overly overrated, objectified males. Now Chris Hemsworth's the same way, and I give him a
so
pass
jealous.
just because
You're
I
so
like him
jealous.
as Thor.
You're jealous.
I think he's a
No,
funny
I
guy.
get it. No,
he's-
I get it. I get it. Yeah,
he's a
yeah,
fun-
yeah. He is funny. It's kind of like Rock Hudson or let's say Cary Grant playing against type. They're very handsome, but then they did these like goofy sort of movies with Doris Day and so I kind of like that they're not leaning into their looks as much. But I get where you're coming from, certainly.
Well, maybe one day Jason Momoa or Chris Hemsworth will be able to do the work that Rock Hudson did in Seconds and prove to me he's like a really deep
that
actor.
was fabulous.
You
That
know
was
what I
so
mean?
good.
Because
Of course.
your
That was
examples are
excellent.
definitely good for the time, but those guys actually did at least do one movie that proved they were
Right,
fucking the bomb.
right. And what was the other actor? He was a circus acrobat, Burt Lancaster,
Oh yeah.
and he did this movie called The Swimmer, I think. Was
Oh,
it
it's
him
great.
that
I
did
have
this
it on
movie?
Blu-ray.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
wasn't
hear
that
that's a real
fabulous?
good one.
Oh, it's
Mhm,
fabulous.
mhm.
Yeah, the Frank Perry
Mhm.
and his wife made some really great late 60s, 70s. They did
Amazing.
Puzzle of a
Mhm.
Downfall Child with Faye
Oh
Dunaway,
yes.
one of my
Amazing.
favorites, and Diary of
Yes.
a Mad Housewife.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're really definitely yes. Those are some classics.
I love the
Definitely.
Perry
But
stuff, man. I mean, there's a
mhm,
couple of others I'm kind of forgetting. They did an early one they did that
mhm,
was a surprise hit was David and Lisa, which I haven't seen, where the two like
mhm,
mentally challenged people fall in love with Care Delay, and
mhm.
I forgot the woman. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't. I don't.
It's like early 60s. It's before they did The Swimmer. Um,
Mhm,
but yeah, they really are onto something. Unfortunately, of course, like a lot of creative teams that are couples, they had an
mhm,
acrimonious breakup, and
mhm. Right.
so who knows? Each one's taking more credit, than the other one, and whatever. But that's okay. It's better than the sum of its parts. So
Mhm.
I think we're going to close the book on Wakanda for now, indefinitely.
Can I just say also, just I
Uh-oh.
know it's not Just one closing comment. I quite like, even though I haven't seen much Aquaman, I like Momoa as Aquaman. But you see, I don't see an issue with that. I mean, because if you look at the comics, Aquaman is a blonde haired guy, right?
He's playing Jason Momoa. That's the problem I have with it. I mean, I don't think he's bad as Aquaman, but he's not playing Aquaman. He's playing Jason Momoa. You know, he just has powers and he can breathe underwater, but he's still like the surfer dude, muscles, jokes around, you know, uses slang.
Yeah.
None of that's Aquaman stuff.
So
But
my point was, I don't understand why the fanboys have got such an issue apparently with, say, a black Superman or a black Hercules, such as Michael B. Jordan, when clearly they haven't stuck to the comics with Aquaman because we've got a Polynesian Aquaman.
right.
You know?
Well, I wouldn't actually have a problem with Hercules of color just because, you know, a Mediterranean guy from, 4,000 years ago probably would not look like a white cracker, you know. And like I said, I don't know the ethnicity of this actor. He could be Italian, you know, he could be for real. I don't know, but he looks Caucasian. And he seems like they cast him for his looks primarily, you know, but he might be a great actor, but he's very built and he looks completely comic accurate. He's only in like a couple of shots, but it was like pretty incredible. But as with Marvel, they lose track of all these subplots they do in the end credits. So we've seen this Hercules, and now it's been like 3 years and there's no mention of him. I don't know where is he? Why doesn't he come after Thor? What's going on? Dudes, get with it.
Sorry.
Hi, you've been watching Deep Images. I'm Henry Covert, your host. This is Bergie Williams and C.F. Roberts, two of our most amazing panelists. And we've been talking about an incredible series here. We do these series sessions every so often. We break them into individual episodes. So we wanted to kind of give you a segue and let you know what you've just watched and what you can look forward to. So just want to remind you, thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe, and support the channel any way you can. You guys have anything to say?
Yeah, like, subscribe, come back, see us. We don't bite. Type.
Do you like that? We like that. Let me tell you something. Leave some comments.
Hell yeah.
Leave something in the chat. If you like us, talk to us. If you don't like us, talk to us. We want to hear from you.
All right. Y'all have a good evening. Thanks for watching.